In this tutorial, I'm going to cover how to turn your portrait to beautiful oil painting. The tools that I'm going to use for this lesson are smudge tool and the brush tool. For this exercise, I have downloaded free photograph from unsplash.com. So if you wish to download the same thing, check the link in the description area. Without further ado, let's get started. So the first step will be make a copy of the original photo. So go to your layer panel and select the subject layer and press Command J. If you are a Windows user, press Ctrl J. Now you can see we have duplicated one copy. You can name it as a original image. So we'll keep as a backup. Why we need to keep a backup? Reason is whenever anything goes wrong, you know that you still have a copy of original, don't you? So we'll hide this original photograph for a moment by clicking this eye icon, and now I'm going to select the layer one and going to work with it. The second step that we need to do is make a selection around the subject. So there are plenty of ways to get this done in Photoshop. In step number 2, we are going to select the subject. In Photoshop application, there are plenty of ways to select the object. But in this exercise, I'm going to use select and subject command. This method will work well with photos which has well-focused foreground objects. In other words, when photos have a clear color difference in between the foreground object and the background object, application will be able to make a selection easily. If you need to do further changes, please go to masking area and you can fine-tune your selection by using the brush tool and erase tool. After doing all the fine-tuning works, then you can quit from this masking area and step further. When we turn photograph into portrait, our outcome will lose much more details when compared to the original photograph. So I don't think we have to worry too much about sharpness of selection as we used to do with other photo manipulation works. So when you're done with your selection, you can take a copy of this object and place to a new layer. So you can simply press Ctrl C. If you are Apple user, you can press Command and C key and Ctrl V. Now you can see in the layer panel, we have a separate layer only for the foreground object. Now you can simply hide the layer number 1 just to see the outcome of that. In step number 3, we have to use smudge tool to give a hand painting effect to this photograph. Most important part of this exercise we have to do with smudge tool. Smudge tool help us to create effect you see when you drag a finger through wet paint. This tool picks up a color where we start the stroke and pushes it in the direction that we drag. By blending colors to the nearby pixels, it finally creates an artistic effect. In default setup, Photoshop doesn't have any allocated shortcut key for smudge tool group, but still you can assign shortcut key for this tool by pressing Command, Option, Shift and K key and opening a keyboard shortcut and menus window, if this is one of the most frequently using tool for you. When you go to keyboard shortcuts and menus window, you have to select tools from this drop down and scroll up to smudge tool and assign the new value from this field and hit accept. I'm going to change some values specific to this smudge tool in the option bar in the top. Change the strength to 36% and change the brush tip size to 100 p. The main idea of this step is to remove tiny little details of the skin texture of this photograph. To save some time, I'm going to fast forward this process a little bit, but still you'll be able to take an idea about what I'm doing by looking at this. In step number 4, we need to adjust color of this object and add some background effects. So I'm going to use curves to change the brightness and the contrast a little bit. And go to image adjustment and color balance to apply some color adjustments. So you can change the values of this the way it suits with your project. If we leave this right here, you'll notice something isn't right. That's because of the background and foreground contrast. We need to do something, fade this away. Let's go back to our original photo to get an idea about its background. It's green and a bit of out of focus. In a portrait paintings, we rarely see backgrounds with much more details. So let's create something alternative. We'll create green and blurred background with mixture brush tool. Create another blank layer under the foreground object in layer panel and fill with white color. If we leave it transparent, we can't get the desired watercolor effect from this tool. Now it's time to pick a suitable color for the background of our painting. For that, I'm going to use an eyedropper tool. In this example, our objective is to fade away the contrast difference in between foreground and the background. So I'm going to pick a color which stays somewhere in between foreground and background. So let's zoom it out a little bit. I'm going to place my eyedropper tool very edge of the hair of this model and click. If you get a closer look of our foreground and background colors, I have set greenish gray as a foreground color and the white as a background color. Take the mixer brush tool and now you know what to do. Go to canvas and start applying brush strokes closer to the edge of the foreground object. Why? That's because we need to blend the foreground object smoothly to its background. After we have come to this stage, we can play around a little bit and wait till we get the desired outcome. Then we are good to go. To make it more realistic, you can go back to smudge tool and apply some stroke to this model's hair, just to get some wind blowing effect. Since we have come to the last stage of this artwork, we can crop and present in the way that we like. We recently started this YouTube channel to cover different areas in design field. We have lined up many more exciting tutorials for you guys. If this video helped you to learn something new, please click on like button and share with your friends. If you need to get future updates related to tutorials, tricks and lessons, please hit on subscribe button and the bell icon as well. We'll meet up in next video. Until then, good luck with your all designing works. See ya!